Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. For those who are joining us today on Authentic Conversations presented by Transition Clarity, I'm your host, Adele Bernard. And today I'm happy to welcome Andie Hancock from Dexterous Lifestyle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Adele.
Welcome. So let's just start out a little bit of background on who you are, how you became the person you are, and doing Dexterous Lifestyle.
So, Dexterous Lifestyle is a derivative of another company I had, Dexterous Organizing. So, I was a professional organizer for for well over a decade, about a little over 13 years. And when I started like most professional organizers, attacking people's clutter one-on-one with the client. And coming to understand that a lot of times the clutter is just a symptom of something else going on. And I took some coaching courses. There's a coaching program within the organizing industry that is accredited with ICF, and I muddled through those courses, those foundational courses, and I struggled with wanting to coach. And I found out that I suffered or had a challenge with anxiety and depression. At the time, I didn't know. I also realized I'm an introvert and I'm also very empathic. So that empathy was very challenging for me to coach, over one-on-one. And and I actually ran from it, to be quite honest. And I took my business in a different direction. I decided to build my team. I had employees, and we had a robust team. We started helping people drastically change their spaces in a short amount of time. And then I started becoming less of an organizer and more of a manager. And that disconnect really started to take the joy away from it for me. And I closed my organizing business the summer of 2023, this summer. And it happened kind of more like a breakthrough in the ice. It wasn't something planned. It was, I had been walking on thin ice with my own health and wellness, being in the role that I was in, and not necessarily getting from the business what I needed to get from it. And I closed it and I went through a little sabbatical. And on the other side was Dexterous Lifestyle, which I had started initially because, as I mentioned, I realized that clutter was just a symptom of other things. So Dexterous Lifestyle was really I wanted it to be like an online course or something of that nature, a community, so that people could create mindset and habits around what is causing the chaos, what is causing the clutter, what is causing the discontent. And so when I closed Dexterous Organizing, I kind of morphed Dexterous Lifestyle into working more with entrepreneurs, because I saw my struggle with this hustle culture. I do a lot of networking. I'm actually a leader in a networking group. And I started seeing over and over again the stories of, oh, I just was in the hospital. Oh, I have a bald patch in my head from the stress of my business. And I suffered with, for a short stint of time, my blood pressure, I couldn't get it down. My cholesterol was increasing, and I had never had problems with my blood pressure in the past. So when I tried several things with different doctors to try to get it down, and then I closed Dexterous Organizing, And I even experimented. I was taking some vitamins. I stopped taking them for a month to see if that was what was causing my blood pressure to normalize. And after a month of not taking the supplements, my blood pressure has still normalized. And I did the timeline. It was when I closed Dexterous Organizing. My blood pressure normalized. My cholesterol went down in a matter of weeks. So we don't even realize our businesses can be killing us. So I decided to become a peaceful productivity coach and wellness proponent, helping entrepreneurs and sales professionals to hustle, but in a healthy and happy way.
Well, that's fascinating. And you get into a lot of the work I do, because it's like, as much as I say, so it's transition. You just went through a transition that is going to, like, you knew something wasn't right. You knew that, like, do I really want the headache of employees in this magnitude? And also, like, in my work of working with homes, like, when you're an empath and you go to in somebody's home, physically or vibrationally, you're picking up all their clutter.
Yes.
Right? And it's funny because, like, I don't know if it's just the time of the year, because, like, in Canada, we just finished our Thanksgiving. And I have a pattern that I remember, like, I became aware of for the last at least 15 years. Coming into Thanksgiving is my spring clean,
Mm.
right? And I'm just deep cleaning out stuff, reorganizing, whatever, right? And I'm like, of course, Thanksgiving's this weekend, right? I see my own pattern, but I also, as you talk about decluttering, how many tabs do you have open on your computer at one time? I've actually heard of someone having over like 180 tabs. I'm like,
Whoa.
I didn't know that was possible, because I think
I'm
I'm
like, my computer
crazy.
would crash, I think.
I know. I think my tabs open, like, I think the max I've ever gotten was 20. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. Close, 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 right? And so you think about, like, yes, you're moving into the lifestyle of it, but all that knowledge is coming into the lifestyle to help the next person,
Yes.
right? And the thing is what I've learned, whatever clients are coming to me in the future, I go through it first.
Mm.
So as you're decluttering your space, as you're saying, I have to be aware of my health in order to be able to serve anybody.
Yeah.
What you just learned with your health is who the new clients are going to be. Like, my job is good, like, my business is going good. And it doesn't, I mean, they could be working in corporate, it doesn't matter. The idea is still the same.
Yeah.
And as an empath, we're feeling it before anyone comes.
Absolutely. There were times where we'd work with a client and they didn't really tell us a lot about what was going on. But the stuff is usually an indication we can put things together, right? We see the books on, whatever the subject is that they're dealing with. And we see the mail and, the information that comes through the home. And even the timeline of when, like, we get to the bottom of the stack and it stops at a certain year and we start to see, like, oh, this happened in this year and this is when the clutter started to pile up. And it's like this archaeological dig. We can start to put things together and just touching their things. And sometimes they do open up and they do express their journey of whatever's going on. And it's been times where sometimes I'm not even, the client's not even in the space, but knowing what they've gone through, I've come home and I've wept. because of the sadness in their space.
Mhm.
And I had to release it, and it was compassion, but and but it would affect me. Like I would have like
Mhm.
the whole evening. I couldn't do anything but just cry because of what was going on. So definitely what you said is true. Being an empath was difficult in certain instances, being a professional organizer. And what I'm coming to realize now, I've worked with a few business coaches and mentors, that our businesses, especially when we're helping other people,
Mhm.
isn't about us. And so I'm coming to the realization that, they say something, say something. We're seeing so many people, especially post pandemic, where the rug has been pulled out from all of us. We don't,
Yeah.
and so we're kind of in this kind of PTSD state of like, what's next? And no one's saying it, but that's what it's on our shoulders. And especially for entrepreneurs, it's already uncertainty, it's already anxiety and risk, but kind of with this in the back of our head. I think people move differently, people think differently, and I believe it was you I had a conversation with,
What did I say
that
now?
I believe it was you that you gave, because I was like, I'm fed up with people right now. And I was actually just coming out of closing the organizing business, so I was in that's headspace. But I think you mentioned that people are fragile right now, and
We're very
that
fragile.
just changed my perspective. And it doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you to show it with compassion and understanding, and be able to deal with it differently.
Well, and I think in both of our cases, I think, like, yes, being an entrepreneur is scary. Being an entrepreneur, you have to go and be out there, and the uncertainty is there. But I also look at it as a new beginning coming out of the last 4 years. Uh, and I actually just said this on a post the other day of stop worrying about the outside circumstances of what you think you're working in or not working in, and be the light of you. Show up as you, your 100% soul being, right? And like when I was building my website, it took me a long time to get my logo picture. And I'm like, why is this so hard? What's going on? And I was looking through pictures, and I'm like, what am I trying to convey? And then I found the lighthouse, and I was like, whoa. I said, I'm the lighthouse. And someone actually made a joke with me saying, well, what if you're on the front of the boat and we're going through a storm? And I go, I'm still the lighthouse. You can still crash the rocks or not.
Mhm.
I'm just here in service to show you a way to avoid the rocks, a way of finding a different path, a way of looking inward
Mhm.
rather than outward. And I think that
Yes.
is the biggest thing I've learned, even just in this last week. Nothing outside of us is real. It is
Mm.
all an illusion. The only thing we know for truth is when we're listening to our heart and shutting off the monkey brain.
Hmm.
So
That's
you
streaming.
are you are always your internal lighthouse.
Yeah.
And when you're not in that lighthouse state, like what would you say to a client? Take a breath, get back into your body, see where you are. If you're too far in the forward, you're going to hit anxiety and craziness. If you're too
Mhm.
far in the back, weeping about what used to be, you're going to be depression.
Yep.
And that's And trust me, I know my listeners are going, that's too simple. I understand that's too simple. But if that's all you can get is the simple, take the simple.
Yeah.
And when you talk about moving into the new lifestyle of what they want to create, like, you're not saying you won't hook them up with somebody that can help them clear out their boxes, but you're saying you want to create that new lifestyle for them.
Exactly. I want
right?
and what you're saying is true. I've created a 12-week program, and at first it was 9 weeks because I've taken the word dexterous and made an acronym, and they're tools that, will help people to have a healthy, happy hustle. But then I thought about it, and I added 2 more weeks. And the first week really delves into self-awareness, because I don't want people to take the tools and add it to the toolbox and it not be used in the way that is best for them. Or I experienced this a lot as a professional organizer. I would help people. I would maybe say something that would help them on their journey to letting something go, or maybe not even shopping and bringing things unnecessarily into the home. And people would say, I was in Target and I heard you say, where are you gonna put that? Where is this? And I knew that, it was them, it was their voice, but they morphed it or made that my voice because that was who they felt comfortable taking advice from, so to speak. But I really want people to feel comfortable trusting their own voice. And so that would be the first week of self-awareness. And the second week would be all about dealing with the shame and guilt of that self-awareness. Because sometimes we're self-aware and it's followed immediately by shame or comparison. Well, I can't do this because this person does that. It has nothing to do with you. And I want to really help people understand that shame is it's kind of like mold. When you have mold in your home, you it's an awareness that there is moisture somewhere that you need to now do something about. So shame sometimes allows us, it's an indicator that something is awry, but it doesn't, but then it's now another act that you need to do. You need to shed light on it. You need to air it out. You need to remediate, and you need to make those changes to stop the mold from happening over and over and over. Because what we end up doing is opening up the cabinet and seeing the mold and like, oh, let's close that. I don't want to deal with that. And you're like, you smell that? Now you're spraying. Oh, we don't smell the mold. We don't. We spray a little Lysol on it and just try to cover it up. But then we're still like, oh, I should.
Well, and I'm sure you've seen this in your business of when the clutter gets overbearing. And you see like they've compartmentalized it. And then I'm like, so whose clutter is this? Well, I'm getting to it. I'm like, no, really ask yourself, whose clutter is this? Because it might only be one room, the dump room. So it's not even theirs. It's a passed down belief from somebody else. Right? And so, like, just for instance, I was working with a client who lived in an old Victorian house, right? So everyone knows every time a new tenant goes in, it's like what energy is being left, what, right? And she's a very, very clean person. She had one area in her house, the small bedroom, that became the dump room. I'll do this later. I'll dump it here until I figure out where it needs to go or what I have to do with it. So I was over one day and I said, what's with your dump room? It's so not you. It doesn't make sense. She goes, I don't know. She's like, I've been trying, I've been figuring it out. And I'm like, do you mind if I tap in? And she goes, no, go ahead. It had nothing to do with her. It was where a baby from a previous family who lived in the house died of Cribs death. So emotionally, that family that lived in the house before her closed off the room because they couldn't deal with the pain of losing their child. And she took it on personally, unknowingly. We don't deal with this room. So anything we don't want to deal with, we could dump it in the room. Once that thread came through, she was able to clear it. We cleared it, and the room became a room because that energy was gone.
Yeah.
Right. And so how you said you came back from a client and wept for them, because an empath, we take it on. But more importantly, we need to know how to release it.
Yes. That part.
Right? Because I know, well, because like, I mean, I'm going to go down on a little tangent here, because especially with women, as they fluctuate up and down with their weight and stuff, and I'm like, I personally believe 95% of the weight fluctuations are other people's energy getting caught. Right? Are you eating the apple or the bag of chips? It doesn't matter what you eat, because you're hungry. You actually want this for nutrition, or because you just heard something, or you just saw something, or you just had a memory. No, I want chips. I want the apple outside. But you don't.
I 110% agree with that, because going back to self-awareness, like you were saying, how you want to clean up, and then you started to notice the pattern, that it was
My
around
Thanksgiving cleanup,
the Thanksgiving holiday, right? That's why self-awareness is so important, because if we've read The Power of Habit, a lot of people read Atomic Habits. We are just a conglomeration of habits and patterns. But if we're not self-aware, we can't change those.
Well, and it's
patterns.
not even our patterns.
And not even ours.
Yeah.
But what if they are ours? Like, for instance, I don't know. I know you're in Canada, but do you guys have Taco Bell in Canada?
Yeah, I think so. We have taco places. I don't eat them, so we either have Taco Time, Taco Bell, or but I understand.
So when I was in college, we had a Taco Bell and a McDonald's right in our student union on campus. And there was also one along the street on the way there. And I realized when I was stressed about an exam or just class in general, I would eat Taco Bell. And it was a comfort food for me. Fast forward, 20 years. I hate to say that, but yeah.
Well, 20 years is less than I'd be fast forwarding.
Yeah. And, I live up the street from a Taco Bell. I don't think about it. I don't go often because I know it's not healthy. And, I've graduated as a foodie. I like, fresher ingredients. And, there's so many other ways to get Tex-Mex or Mexican food. But when I was stressed, I would crave Taco Bell. And I would, and it took me a while to realize what is happening. And then I had to think about my past and why I like Taco Bell, and then why I want it. And I'm like, oh, ding, ding, ding. I'm stressed out about something. Because sometimes I didn't even realize I was stressed out about something. The craving would come sometimes before me realizing I was stressed about something. So,
well, and like, as you say that, like, I've worked with people that are like, I didn't even know anything was going on until I'm like in the drive-through. And you're like, well, now it's too late.
Yeah.
So then they order the littlest possible because they can't back out and they can't drive forward without getting something, right? So like they'll get a coffee or just something to say, oh, thank you, trigger, and go and deal with the trigger.
Right.
And I think the last few years have made us all aware, because we've had to slow down. We've had to go into that contemplation, the forced contemplation of what's working, what isn't. Do we have too much clutter that we can't move forward because it's holding us back? Right? And every once in a while, like I personally have stopped buying books because that was part of my clutter. I couldn't let new ideas come in because, well, I have no more room on my bookshelf. And so now I love, getting books from the library to download, because I'll go through once a month or depending how many books. And I just go, yeah, I think I want to read that. Yeah, I think I want to read that. And sometimes they're 6 months out. Sometimes they're in 3 weeks. I have no idea. But I'm telling you, every time a book goes ready for tomorrow, and I'm like, that's what I'm going through? Okay. And I read the book.
Wow.
Right. So over the weekend, I just finished Don Miguel's The Four Agreements, his book on knowledge. Powerful book. Right? Because he takes the four agreements and he says, now let's put knowledge to it. Right? Are you living your most authentic self with the knowledge of the powerful being you are based on the four agreements?
Yes.
And for me, my whole soul blueprint of this time, not only being my truth, but to help you find your truth. And your truth can only be yours. And as you work through this new lifestyle of people, helping them find their truth, the clutter will start going. It has to. Because the clutter keeps us from living our true authentic self. Or that's my belief. And that's how I work with my clients.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're hanging onto the sweater that's too big or too ragged. It has too many holes. Why? What emotional tie is it keeping it in your closet? Yes, there are those ones like, your mom was pregnant with you with it. It still fits you. Like, if you're missing, if your mom has passed, like you put it on, you go, oh, it's just like that hug I miss from mom. I understand those are different. I'm saying the torn one that has no sentimental value, has nothing other than taking room in your closet. Come on.
I would always say either it functions in your space or it's memorabilia. And there's nothing wrong with having memorabilia, but memorabilia has its own place and its own function. In a black bag, in your closet is not honoring memorabilia. It's just now, like you said, it's clutter. But I think with entrepreneurs and people in corporate, whatever, and with our work, we hold on to mental clutter and perspectives that have been passed down by maybe the culture, the company culture we worked in. And then as an entrepreneur, we have the right to create our own culture. Who said that you had to be up at 6 a.m.? I mean, we had a kind of pre-conversation earlier that, you've through self-awareness, understand that you're most focused between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. And who's to say that's wrong?
Well, and it's funny because I actually do a health program out of Australia. And when I first did my profile, I was working corporate. I was at work by 6:45 in the morning, like up at 4:45 in the morning, right? And I'm getting home from work at 4:30, exhausted. And then I'd take a break, have dinner, and then do this job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I do my profile, and the first thing it says is nothing other than calm and quiet before 7 a.m. Because that is when my body is recycling, rebalancing all my hormones, my stress, and I'm like, well, that explained a lot of my corporate life for 25 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, I'll be awake at 5:36. I'm not getting out of bed. I'm doing my meditation. I'm doing my ritual, whatever. I'm reading my book. And it's like, oh my God, my health is better. My mind is better. And I'm like, I'm so grateful to have found the program. And it
Absolutely.
even
I
talks
love
about
that.
like social, like needing time. Like even if you're buying a house, right? Like my profile, I need to have far views, right? I don't need to live in a farm necessarily or in the country, but wherever I look, I have to have the farthest view possible out of a window. And I thought about every house I've ever lived in. I'm like, yep, I had a far view across. We had neighbors, but the neighbors were across the street, right? So they weren't like right button up against. Or you look out and you can see across the top of the roof, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I saw that and I went, that's been every house I've lived in. So somewhere in either my mom or my dad, they have to have some part of my personality of this thing because they bought houses that I could see far without knowing.
Oh,
And so when you're saying about creating this new lifestyle, good and bad is all in us. We gotta weed out what all the other people are and figure out what we are on our own.
Exactly. And one of the pillars that I talk about is educate and edit. And going back to what you were saying about, your books. The scripture says that to the making of books, there's basically no end, right? There's a lot of things out there's a lot of knowledge. And then if you go in the self-help section, one expert is on one tangent and another expert is on a whole different side of things.
Yeah. One loves blue, one hates blue.
Yes. So it's nothing wrong with educating because there could be something in both of those books that we may be able to take and consume, and it be a seed of growth for us. But we also need to know what we need to filter because we're aware of who we are and what works best for us. And I think what happens is we read these books and we're like, well, that's not me. And then here comes the shame and the guilt. And then we spiral because we're trying to put on someone else's, tuxedo, so to speak. But that's not going to fit us. It's not going to work. And then we're walking around, shoulders up to here because things aren't working. And then it spirals and then we're not productive. So like you mentioned about knowing, how your body recalibrates in the morning and you honor that. I'm 100% sure you're more productive now that you give yourself that time versus say, oh, I have to get up and go to the gym and I have to send out these emails because that's what this guru says that they do and that's how they're successful. So I'm gonna.
No. Well, and as I say this, I grew up in a family, a long lineage of saying the early bird gets the worm. And I used to say, well, I guess I'll never have a worm. All right. Because I couldn't get up. That it was right. And then so they're going to bed early, right, to get the early bird worm. well, I'm kind of a night owl, right? Not
Mhm.
happening. And so like it was really funny because yes, can I get up, and if we have a function or whatever, I can get up and go, right? And can I stay up really late and do, yes. But my optimal time of production, I don't look at my computer before 9 in the morning. I don't schedule a client until 10
Yes, same.
because I want you, the person coming, to get the best of me. You're not getting the best of me at 7
Mhm.
a.m. You're getting crabby person who hasn't quite woken up. And at 11 p.m., you might get a little bit of the best of me, but I'm fading because I'm going to bed at 11:30, right? So, you know, like so 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pretty good. I'm able to accommodate because I have my morning ritual of quietness and I have my night ritual of quietness.
Mhm. What you
And
just
very
said really,
rare I choose to change that. No one else will make me. I will choose.
yes.
And I
And
think that's what we all have to get back to is turn off the noise of outside.
mhm.
If your heart isn't saying, "Oh, we hit our song," "Ooh," like I always call it the cat's purr, right? If
Mhm.
your heart's purring, you're
Mhm.
you're doing some right. Keep going. And when
Mhm.
you talked about the beginning with the um, PSPD, whatever that is, right? That shock,
Mhm.
that trauma.
Mhm. Mhm.
They said before COVID, we all had that to
Oh,
a
yeah.
mild degree. Now it's
Mhm.
just magnified,
Yep.
right? And then yeah, and I actually had someone tell me one day, I said, I don't understand why addicts find me. And he said, what do you mean you don't understand? And I go, I don't get it. You guys all flock to me like I'm honey, right? And they said, because you're living what we want to try to get, right? You're living that euphoria. And I was like,
Hmm.
huh. And I'm like, I've worked really hard to get here.
Yes.
I might not have gone through the rehab route, but I've worked really hard to do it.
Mhm.
And so that was heartwarming to me.
Yeah. Two things that you said that really resonated with me. The first was, when we set these boundaries and we understand ourselves, I've heard people talk about boundaries and they do it in a way that feels very self-serving.
Mhm,
I'm gonna do this because I don't have time for that. But when you said, you know, I want to serve my clients better, and you
mhm,
get the best me when I am taking care of me.
mhm,
That feels so much, talking authentic. It feels
mhm,
so much more soft, and you're not doing, this self-care or this setting these boundaries out of selfishness. And I think a lot of times that's where we come, uh why people shy away from it. Like, oh, I gotta put other people first. And that's true. And so
but it's
to
not.
give them your best self, to
You
put
have
them,
to be
you have
selfless,
you have to be selfless.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not selfish, it's selfless.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like when you want the best of somebody, first and foremost yourself, you can't skip lunch and keep going.
Yes.
You can't skip your workout and think you're going to have energy through the whole day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I say like I've worked with people through burnout and no one has had burnout more than I have because a candle has one end, I made it have five
Oh my
and I
goodness.
kept going.
Mm.
And the thing is like I'm seeing more and more people like, I don't know why I ended up in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had somebody that I was working kind of with who she had a like I thought it was a brilliant awakening. She was living her life on somebody else's terms and she ended up in the hospital again. The doctor looked at her and he says, same time next year?
Wow.
And she said, pardon? He goes, your chart says you come in around this time every year. So same time next year? Are you going to look at your life and start figuring out something new? She was telling me this story and she started crying. And I said, but he's right. And I said, and how grateful you should be that you had an aware doctor who was saying, this is your wake-up call. Something needs to change or you will die.
I just got chills. That's
And then she threw her life into chaos, but is making it through. Right? Like she ended up doing the divorce. She ended up telling her kids, I can't do this anymore. The kids were like, we were wondering when you're going to wake up to do it. Right?
And I get that. I closed my business.
Yeah.
I closed my organizing business and I had to go through a grieving process. You know, as I was telling people that I had come to terms with that decision, but when, you know, as you're telling other people, they grieve. Oh, you were so good at it. Oh,
but this see, okay, so this is what, I love this conversation. You might have closed it to the employees, to the chaos, whatever. You haven't closed it for the lifestyle.
Yes.
Because all that knowledge, all that know-how, you will still share with your clients in a different way. You're not coming in and doing it for them. You're going to say, well, what about that bedroom closet that has all the black bags of your keepsakes? Let's make a date that you're going to handle that. When we get back together, you're going to have that handled. If you need some support, I can send somebody over. Right? And it's just like with me, like this company of coaching, I've been doing it since I was 3 years old. It has morphed. I started with homes. I've started with making people have their sanctuary at home. Right? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I go, well, people go away for holidays thinking they're going to escape something. They're on their way home and the stress level's crazy because they know they're going back into the home. No point in going for a massage outside your home if you're going to come back to the same crap. Right? So I started 25 years ago with that. Then it started morphing into the transition coaching. And I was like, okay, I guess. I don't know what this means. What does this mean? Oh, the world got dumped on its head. Oh, thanks for the pre-warning. Right? So I was 3 years ahead of the dump. Now I'm switching again because the clients are forcing me. Not forcing me. They're showing me a different light. And I'm like, well, I'm not hitting the rocks. Okay, let's go there. Right? Let's see where this light now takes us. And so when you think about your lifestyle, and I'm not trying to tell you to do your business how, that knowledge will always be there.
Absolutely.
It's like the old saying, once you learn to ride a bike, you'll never forget.
Yeah.
It might be wobbly every time you go leave it and come back, but you get it. You finally get the rhythm and you go, okay, I can do this. I can do this. Am I going fast? No, I'm still, no.
Yeah.
You know, oh, this bike has 10 speeds. I only had 2 before. Yeeks. Right? Like,
yeah,
but you
absolutely.
get it, right?
I get it. And I think the kind of point I was making is, you know, with your client who didn't want to keep going to the hospital every year around that same, she wasn't getting those patterns. Her doctor saw it. That's why I think journaling is very important, and not necessarily in the way that most people think, but documenting helps you to see those patterns. But when she realized it, she started to make those drastic changes and throwing. And so sometimes, you know, when you break a bone, it's going to hurt to reset it. You're going to have to, you know, like she had to take some things out of her life. And then by doing that, like when I closed my business, I stopped a huge stream of revenue. Like I'm starting all over again, building another business. It's scary.
Or
But
you're going to shift your old clients.
yeah, the ones who want, because not everybody, even when I was doing my training, you know, we have to, as you know, we have to ask people, do they want to be coached? Are they coachable even?
Exactly. And
So,
that was a huge thing. So just going back to that person, I saw it after her first baby.
mm,
This wasn't the person for you. I didn't understand why they were together.
mhm.
But I went, high school sweethearts, whatever. Well, who am I to say, right? Like I knew her, but maybe I didn't know her well enough. And I totally owned maybe I was making a judgment. And then when it was like, everyone has their own thing. And so my biggest thing that I've learned is the rope is always there. Until you make it tight to say I'm ready to work, I say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You can call me and call me and call me, and we'll keep on talking until you say I'm ready. I say nothing.
Because it's not going
Because
to
I'm
be
not,
effective anyway.
no, but I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
Like I call it the spiritual swap. Like they'll go, they never ask. I'm like, but whack. I'm tired of getting hit. And so I've had to learn in my own growth, right? And especially with family, it's the hardest. I'll see it clear as day. And they got to go through it until they figure it out. And I go, please let them figure it out soon.
Hard for me when I was when I was training to be a coach, being an impact, and I also have this fix it personality. That's why I think I was so good at professional organizing. I could see the potential of a space, and so you can see the potential of a person, but you can't, as in the coaching space, it's not your job to fix them. You can't. They have to come to
We're
the
here to
realizations, and they have to have the perspective shifts, because even if you say what they need to hear, sometimes it's met with resentment, it's met with resistance, and they end up going sometimes the opposite direction. So the patience that it takes to be a coach, I had to develop, and I'm still working on it.
we all are. And I have probably been coached from some of the most phenomenal people ever. Right. And it's not saying it just for me. Like I've sent people to them and they're just like, oh my gosh. I go, I know. And so like my first coach, who's also a psychologist, said, she used to always say, I go, what are you trying to get me to understand? I'd see it in her face because I could read faces, right? And she goes, okay, I'll say it. I'm not sure you're ready to hear it, but I'll say it. And I go, okay. And then she'll say whatever she's saying. And I'm like, nope, didn't land. But promise me you'll play the record again. And she goes, absolutely. So we had this dialogue that she'll try it. And I'll go, need my broken record. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right. And then we worked on, I don't need the broken record anymore. Right. and then even my friend, business partner, coach, whatever you want to call him, even now, like I'll say, I think I have a question, but I think you're going to shake me down. And then you'll make a funny face back in the text. And he's like, you're not ready to ask the question. I go, thanks. And I leave it because I'm not in the space to hear the answer. So don't even put the question up. Right. And so and when like when you're working with lifestyles, like in my experience, and coming from the clearing, right, the clearing energy is always have it in ease and grace for them, because I used to clear some houses that they'd be like, what the flip did you do? And I go, I didn't do anything. Your house was saying you're ready for this, and they're like, we weren't ready for this because it came in so fast, so hard.
Yeah.
Right. And so I always ask that it comes with ease and grace. to the best of their ability to shift. I might see they can go way faster. You might see they can go way faster, but they can't see they can do it faster.
Mm.
Right? And even cleaning up your own space, like after you cook a big meal, whatever, you have this meal and you go back in the kitchen and you go, now it's all complete and we're going to clean. And all that stuff of making the meal good, bad, and different is going to be cleansed. And it's a different way of cleaning because you're cleansing the space for the most authentic you to be revitalized. Because I remember years ago, like for my whole life, like I didn't do basements. And people are like, why don't you do it? No, I don't do basements. Because I came in with basements, dirty things, bad things happen. So I had a belief from someone somewhere, bad things happen in basements. Bad things happen in walk-in closets.
Wow.
No, none of my memories, but I picked it up somewhere through the, right? Until I figured out this isn't mine, this, right? I couldn't go into anyone's basement. I couldn't go near walk-in closets.
Yeah.
Because my body would literally like freak.
That's so interesting. I'm digesting the concept of energy being residual from someone else. And I think that the best thing I can think of is, when a person walks into a room, they exude an energy. They can change, they can even, if their energy is so big, it could be good or bad, they can shift the whole room's energy. I mean, people get paid for that. Like at conferences, they want, the MC to have a lot of energy to exude that to the audience. And so if we relate that to, okay, there's energy that can be transferred to others. And then I think about smell. If a person has perfume or something, they've left the room, but they've been there because you can smell it, that fragrance. And conversely, if they have a body odor, it can be, you can smell what they've been like, oh, those boys came in from basketball. I smell, And so why not our energy? Why not? I mean,
well, and I believe Toni Morrison said it the best way. When a child enters the room, they want to see your eyes light up. Because that means they're seen, they're recognized, there's love coming to them. She says, if we only did that, we would change the next generation. And even though she wrote storybooks, there were so many golden nuggets in her writing that people would read too fast because they think it's a story.
Yeah, I read Toni Morrison when I was a teenager. And so it was a lot of things that probably went over my head, but I knew that it was symbolic. I knew it was deep.
Yeah, she was a powerful writer. Powerful. And I'm not a person to read stories per se. Like I will read a fast book, just whatever. And same with Jodi Picoult. She's another Toni Morrison in a different way of like life-changing. Like think about how you're reading this. Think about how it can change the trajectory going forward. And those are the books I love. The ones that make you go, did I get that? What are you saying? Do I have to read that over?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I have to just assimilate? Right? Because, and that's another thing. Like, so when, as you talked about, making your 12-week course, right? I find a lot of people who make courses, that's why I haven't made one, is they don't have time for people to assimilate before they move on. Like, especially when you do those big weekend courses, there's so much information, so much going on in that room or wherever you are, even on Zoom, right? Like, I know Tony Robbins just did another 4-day on Zoom, but life is still happening in your house. There's so much information packed in that they can't even, you're through the course and you're like, what did I learn?
Yeah.
You're on overload. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Tony Robbins, but it's like, holy, I can do chunks of you 10-minute times, maybe 20 minutes max.
Mm-hmm.
Overload.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So,
We lost your sound.
here,
Yes.
yeah, sorry, I didn't turn my phone off. Well, we'll have a little blip. Sorry, folks. Technology, we
Power
love
of
it.
editing.
We love it. Yeah, and so when we, everything we read, everything we touch, everything, it's all energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so as a coach, as you're transforming your business, right, from the actual physical work, you're now doing it more on the mental, the body, the spiritual side,
Mm-hmm.
right? The integration,
Yes.
to me, is the key. And well, someone asked me why I don't make programs, and I said, because I'm in the moment.
Mm.
I'm in the moment with the people. If the people want to shift, they'll shift. It could be a 5-minute call, it could be a 5-hour call. That's up to you, not me.
Exactly.
I am here until you shift. So will a course come? I don't know. That'll depend on who comes.
Mm-hmm.
The clients who are asking. Can we take this deeper? Sure. Absolutely.
And my goal is to be kind of like a buffet.
Mm-hmm.
Not every pillar that I'm going to teach, not everyone is going to have the same struggles on those same, someone may be like, oh, I love delegation automation. All right, great. Next, someone might come and say, I've had a horrible experience with delegating, or I don't like to give it up. I'm the best person to do this. Well, here I am to talk about it,
Well, and then that's a whole different thing, right? So there's some people that have been delegated to in an awful way.
Mm-hmm.
So they will never delegate to anybody else because they don't want to transfer it to somebody else.
Mm.
But it's they're all learned skills
Yeah.
to it's like, it's always the I use the analogy of giving and receiving, because a giver will always give. They are the worst receivers. But I just love giving. And I said, so why do you keep stealing that joy from somebody who's trying to give you? And they go, what? And I go, you're stealing the joy you get from giving them, from giving to you. Or when it's like, oh, that dress, you look beautiful. Thank you. Complete sentence.
And that's the
Not,
thing
oh,
about
this
delegating.
thing or
There's
this,
some
whatever.
things that you don't do well that take you forever, that you even hate doing, that other people love to do.
Yeah.
They love it. So same analogy. You're now taking away their joy by trying to do something that you don't even do well or don't even like to do.
Yeah.
And conversely, if we are an entrepreneur and you make money from the services or the products you provide, why not choose to employ or use another entrepreneur who is offering the services and products that they provide?
Well,
So
and then,
there's so many different ways to kind of think about that.
well, and it's funny because like I've been thinking about this for my own business of like, yes, I can do the posting, yes, I can do this, but it takes me a long time, right? I have to be in the zone. I have to wait for the flow. I have to whatever, right? There are some people that just go, can you write a post about blah blah blah? And I need it's 5 weeks out, and they go, done. Boom. And you're like, wow, that task would have taken me 3 weeks.
Yes.
Right. And like I hear from teachers too, right? We have those students that need the processing time. We have those students that will play right to the end. Oh, you need, and they're like, will you please sit at your desk? And they're like, yeah. They only need 10 minutes. They don't need the full 30 minutes. They have the other ones that will just like, yeah, I can sit at my desk. No, I can't. Well, yeah, I can. I'll get it done. Is it good enough? Yeah. And then they'll go play, right? They have all spectrums. And the best teachers are the ones that let the class be their spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
All the teacher has to do is, here's your 30 minutes. This is the assignment. And let it be. The ones that need the full 30 minutes will take it. The ones that need 5 minutes will take it. The ones that will hand it in halfway through will and it's allowing each individual to understand their own unique self of getting it done. And that's why homeschooling is so popular here. Right? Because parents are always like, oh, like it's rushing to get the kid, to get them soccer, whatever. Well, now they do soccer at 11 in the morning. Because part of school's done. They need the break, burn off the energy, and then they'll do school more in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Calgary is one of the biggest homeschooling in North America because of that. Right? The parents are freelancers or entrepreneurs. They want to take their kids in midweek skiing. Gone. Like, yeah.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
I really wish that, schools and even employers would explore those things a little bit more. I think some are getting there.
Yeah.
But when I had employees and I was going through a training, one of the things that really resonated with me that I tried to implement was fix the process, not the person.
Yeah. And
so I think a lot of times, especially employers, granted, you want to have the roles identified, and you want to have the right people in the role so that they're productive and happy. But at the same time, get that feedback from the team and say, well, this project failed. Why did it fail? Was it the person or was it the process? And try to fix the process first.
And you have the right person doing the right task.
Exactly.
If you have the person who needs to ponder for 3 weeks, that's not the person that you need to have to get this out in 24 hours.
Exactly. And that was one of the things in that program that I was taught was instead of coming with the perspective of this is the job description and then you got to find the right person. You start with a job description, and then everyone comes back to the table and they say, these are the things I love to do. These are the things that I don't like to do. And then if possible, you take the things that people don't like to do, and then you create another job description. And then magically you'll find somebody who's like, I'm doing those things. And then you create this job specifically for them. So now everyone has a role, but it doesn't look like this, typical. Then you
Well,
make up a title
and
based
it's
on
and
their
it's
their
funny you're
their
saying that.
strengths.
It's funny you're saying that because when I was ending my corporate career, I was actually going to university too, and and they said, well, if you're going to school on Saturday, don't take a day that you're not working at the office. And so I'd say, well, I'll take Fridays off. So if I ended up coming in on a Friday, no one said hi to me. They knew my headphones are in, my head's down, getting the work done because I'm out. Like, this is not my work day. And unless I came around and said, hi, I'm here. And they're like, oh, hi.
Yeah.
Right. They just knew, do not, like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm, right. Headphones in, getting the work done. But, so as we're wrapping up, this has been a fabulous conversation. I love it. What would you want people to know or understand about you going forward?
Yeah. So
Takeaways?
it starts with an awareness, self-compassion. And then there's certain tools, like you mentioned, I've brought experience to the table. We both are readers. And there's certain patterns we see in different books that are popular that are like, this must be a truth because this person says it and this person says it, and these are the examples. I've experienced it. And so, I've created these pillars that I invite people, I should say, to
Mm-hmm.
explore.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that ultimately we started businesses, especially women, we started businesses to help other people. And we also started businesses to have flexibility and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we don't take care of ourselves, we do a disservice for both of those things. It's a disservice to our clients because we're not showing up as our best self. And it's a disservice to the freedom and flexibility, because even if you're hitting your revenue goals and your profit goals, but you're sick and you're depressed and you're
Mm-hmm.
anxious,
And you're burnt out.
at what cost? Cost.
Yeah.
So that's really where I come from. I want people to take care of themselves and to do it in an authentic way and be able to take the tools and those pillars, what resonates with them, what they can find useful, so that they can have a healthy, happy hustle.
I think you summed it up perfectly. And I think whether people follow you, follow me, follow both of us, we're giving you a new way of going through life, clutter-free, energetically alive, that we can serve from our hearts. And I had a coach I was working with a while back who said, always give from your saucer because your cup will always be overflowing.
Mm.
And when I heard that statement, I'm like, there's no more lack in that. And if the saucer has nothing, we have to take a step back and check in with our own selves.
Yes.
So once again, this is Authentic Conversations presented by Transition Clarity. I'm your host, Adele Bernard, and today our guest was Andie Hancock with Dexterous Lifestyles. Thank you.